What's good? Let's talk about high elves. So I've made a quick pre-made here. These are all the basic infantry units that you'll probably end up seeing throughout our little multiplayer campaign that we're doing. I wanted to do a quick video both because, well, for three reasons. One, because I wanted to help, and two, because I'm bored as fuck, and three, I want to talk about Total War. I love talking about Total War. So we're going to start from the very top, and we're going to talk a little bit about the unit cards too, so we know what to look for. So every single army is going to have these bad boys in it. Spearmen. The spearmen are the basic infantry for the high elves, but they're a little specialer with the high elves because they are just kick-ass. All units, or excuse me, all factions, as you might expect, have basic tier one infantry, but the spearmen just fuck. They are just great. They are a fucking sturdy wall. You'll be hanging on to them until you get their vertical upgrade later, which is silver and guard. And even then, you probably don't even need silver and guard. Spearmen just do exactly what they need to do. So, as you might expect, spearmen don't do any damage, but they are the absolute wall between you and your archers. High elves are very simple because they are the humble wall and archer combo personified, and these guys are the wall. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing as far as their unit card. So they have shielded, they have big ass shields. You might expect that. Anti-large, they've got a spear. Spears and halberds typically mean anti-large. And charge defense against large foes, meaning if they were about to take a fucking orc boar charge, zoom, wah, right here, and they start bracing, they won't even budge. Then, the first three guys might get flying back, poor dudes, but the rest of them aren't even gonna fucking move. They're extremely strong. You're gonna love these guys. Have them in every single army. Uh, Additionally, going down a little more specifically, they have 40 armor as well as a silver shield. There are three tiers of shield: bronze, silver, gold. Bronze and silver is what you'll see on units, so we're just going to go over that. And it's simple: silver is good, bronze is okay, gold is great. Leadership 70, these guys will need to be down to the last man before they break, or something really awful needs to happen to them, like they eat wart lightning or something like that. So, sturdy men, very brave. They have speed 33, so they're not exactly fast, but I wouldn't call them slow either. Melee defense, melee attack 20, just abysmal. They're not going to kill fucking anything. However, they have melee defense 38, which means nothing's going to kill them either. And as a cheat sheet, with very few exceptions, if the melee defense is higher, it's a defense unit. If the melee attack is higher, it's an offense unit. Go figure. Weapon strength, I'm going to be honest, I don't know the minutia of this one, but it just makes them hit harder. And charge bonus, if they were to actually charge those aforementioned orc boars, they were maybe just sitting there. These guys would have 4 bonus damage for the duration, for a few seconds after the charge. Uh, Rangers, they are basically the DPS melee unit of the early game high elf roster. If you, for some reason, the DLC, I should get that out of the way first. So, until you get the DLC, just don't even mind what they're doing. But basically, if you wanted to make an army that more was about holding the bad guys here in front of the spearmen and then flanking them with rangers, then you could do that, and the rangers put in work. White Lions of Crace, these are free. Basically the same thing I said about the Rangers. Uh, these guys are mid-game DPS melee infantry. The only thing that aforementioned DLC does is give you an early game version of it. Same thing, just send them in against pretty much anything. I'm going to revisit their unit card just to go over it. Armored, so they have armor. They'll need to be countered by armor-piercing units, which is this little icon here. They themselves are armor piercing, so they could go against equally armored units and do okay. Lion Cloak means that they do a few missiles. If there's some weirdness there in this little section here, something a little different. And Forest Strider, meaning that they can walk through forests and be fine. They're hunters or whatever the fuck. So, and again, same thing here. You can see here that their attack is bigger than their defense. And what do you know? That means they're an offensive unit. Silver and Guard, we talked about these guys. Again, they're just spearmen, but for the late game. These guys are DLC. Keep that in mind. Nothing wrong with running spearmen for the entire campaign, but if you do end up getting the DLC, which I believe is Warden and the Paunch, these guys will replace the spearmen in late game armies. These two units, the Swordmaster and Hoeth and the Phoenix Guard, are going to work pretty much in tandem. These are the super turbo duper elite versions of the High Elf Infantry. They are both DPS focused, but they're both going to perform different things. The Phoenix Guard, who guard their god or some shit, they're going to be anti-large. You can see they have halberds. Again, halberds are always anti-large. Halberds and spears. And kind of the similar thing. We've seen armored before. We've seen armor piercing before. We've seen anti-large before and charge defense against all. Meaning it doesn't need to be like a charging cavalry. It can just be anything. It can be charging infantry. It can be charging monster. Anything that's not going to get through these bad boys. Swordmasters of Hoeth, they have swords, so they're the anti-infantry equivalent. Makes them interesting and kind of loreful is they see the future or some shit, so they're able to deflect arrows. It's not really that important, but that is where the bronze shield comes in. Effectively, they have a reasonably worse shield than the spearmen, but nonetheless, they can hold it down. They can deflect shots. They can do that. Otherwise, they are just infantry mulchers. They will destroy anything you put them in front of that isn't equivalent or higher caliber, which is very rare. These guys are tip top. And no infantry will be complete without our humble archers, especially on high elves. So these guys are the aforementioned humble archers. They shoot for absolutely ridiculously far as a high elf trait. You can see they pretty much shoot all the way in almost to this farmland. They can fire into the fucking pond if they wanted to, and they're all the way back on this little ridge. So they're just absurd. Super high range, super easy to use. The only thing they can't do is be attacked in melee. If they're attacked in melee, they're pretty much toast. There's a second variant called the Archers with Light Armor. I think I should put in here. Yeah, there we go. In light armor, you can see they have a little breastplate. Um, they cost a little more to recruit and a little more to upkeep, but otherwise are the exact same armor or exact same unit. And you can see they just have 25 less armor and 4 less melee defense. Again, they're still, regardless of that, they are still not a melee unit by any stretch of the imagination. So a lot of people believe that these guys are kind of useless. They're just wasted money. If your archers aren't melee anyway, they're cooked. You can make your own decision about whether you want them to have a little more chance to survive while another unit assists them, or if they just want to explode like regular archers. You can leave that to yourself. Otherwise, same unit. Here's the next upgrade, the Lothern Sea Guard. These guys were the titular high elf unit until they were expanded a little more with DLC. These guys can do both archery and melee, which is really cool. They're 90% a spearman and 90% an archer. Very powerful units. Um, these guys, I mean, honestly, that's all there is to say. They're 90% archer, 90% a spearman. However, you may want to consider skipping over the regular spear guards and just going, or excuse me, sea guards, and then going to the ones with shields, because with the silver shields they have here, again, we're seeing that icon again, they're able to actually shield against missile fire, which means if they're ever getting into an archery trade, they'll win. They're very powerful. These guys definitely DLC, but I think they're free LC, so I'm going to go into a little more detail. These are the Shadow Warriors. They are very good for builds that kind of focus on putting your high elves into the trees. Therefore, Alithanar here, who I brought out because he's voiced by fucking Dylan Sprouse from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, so I just love this guy. Um, but if you were doing something with the Lithanar and you want to go into the trees a lot and do a lot of ambush tactics, these guys will set you up for that. They have a whole build for that. Rangers, yeah, these guys. The Rangers are part of that. But otherwise, you can pretty much stop with the Lothern Sea Guards. Actually, you can't. These guys are Shadow Walkers. They are specific to Lithanar. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know. I brought them out. Just imagine them as Sisters of Alaria, which we'll talk about in a second, if you're playing a Lithanar. Anyway, so Sisters of Avalorn. Whoo boy, these are the high elf unit. You will never catch a high elf army without these guys. Imagine the upgrade from archers imagine the upgrade from spearmen to silver and guard, except you also roided them out. That's pretty much what happened here. So the archers get upgraded to Sisters of Alariel. They get magical attacks, which is just fucking amazing. It basically means they're able to hurt demons, hurt constructs, and they do bonus damage to just the humble regular infantry. It's just ridiculous. They have good range. They're decent in melee. Again, you don't want them in melee because their bows are where it's at, but they can hold out like light armor archers could. And the bows of Avalorn just means that ridiculous armor piercing. I think it's like fucking 36 or some crazy ass number. Yeah, 22. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. Essentially, once you're ready to upgrade into Sisters, just do it. You might even want to consider beelining to it. Last thing to go over is the heroes. So we're going to start from the not the legendary, but we're gonna start from the sword master. So the lore master of Hoeth and the noble, I'll actually talk in two ways. So as we were doing a couple early game fights, you were telling me how it was very difficult to kill heroes with massed infantry. It always is. And I had said to you that massed infantry is the worst way to deal with them. The next best is archer spam, and then the absolute best is hero killers. So these guys, the High Elf roster don't really have a defined hero killer like, say, Korn or Nurgle. Nurgle is one that I really like to play, and they have a dedicated one. These two instead kind of specialize. Uh, they can both hold it down against heroes. They can both do really well against them, but they're also have to use some of their power budget to be infantry blenders too. So they're not the best in the game, but they get the job done. And of course, being infantry blenders, they also blend infantry. So this guy is the aforementioned infantry blender. He got a sword. We're seeing that again. And he also has a few spells on him. They're usually pretty good. You can see him here. I won't talk about them, but they're all pretty good. Rest assured. Um, Same thing we've seen before. He can cast spells. He's armored. He's piercing. He's anti-infantry. Great, great, great. Noble, same exact thing. He doesn't have any spells. He has personal buffs, except he has anti-large and hero killing. So basically, this guy kills the heroes. You send him in against the infantry when he's done. This guy kills the heroes. You send him against the large troopers when he's done. The cavalry, the monsters, that kind of shit. Mage, I mean, I would need to have its own video to talk about all the ways you can use a mage, but let's just be honest here. You want to have a mage in every single party. Mages are just fucking great. The only question is which lore you want to take. Um, we'll just say you want to take Life and Fire for High Elves. Very powerful spell schools. The Handmaiden of the Everqueen, extremely powerful on the campaign map. The Handmaiden of the Everqueen gives you a passive which gives you 10 diplomacy buff with every faction, including Chaos. So if you have like 10 of these guys running around all giving that buff, you'll make friends with Archaon, who's like the Antichrist, which is really funny. Um, in battle, they're okay. They're a hero infantry. Excuse me, they're a hero archer unit. They're not going to like make any major plays, but if you pelt them on the hero for a while, the hero will eventually go down. You put them on infantry for a while, they will eventually go down. They're not really a playmaker, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with having one or maybe even two. And then there's the legendary lord. I mean, this is a cool Dylan Sprouse, so I just wanted to bring him out. He's fucking awesome, but legendary lord. And that's it. That is the melee. Thank you.